The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello and welcome to World Cup Day 2 edition of Soccer to the Max. And man, what a day this was. Two games that sort of ended in the same way. And then you get the absolute peach of a game at the end to just make you not just totally forget about what you just saw. You had boredom and then excitement to end the day. It's amazing that I've been lucky at work to be able to watch these things. I'm waiting for tomorrow when that totally just gets crushed and I have to get home and watch like 4 games at once. I don't know how that's going to happen, but yeah, I mean, Eric, this quite interesting day 2 here with what we got.
It went from incredibly boring, and I'm glad I was getting ready for work, to somewhat less boring, but I was at work and work was more boring, to, oh my god, we've just seen the match and the goals of the tournament. All in a span of a few hours.
It's crazy how the World Cup can work like that. Rachel, I mean Ronaldo.
It wasn't
nasty,
team.
right?
It wasn't Team Russia. But it was pretty good today. It was pretty good. And gosh darn it, Cristiano Ronaldo, can you and your beautiful self just stop? Just stop? Or wife me up. I don't care.
Okay. Hate to burst your bubble, but he's already taken. And
she ain't even cute.
He's got to do that because, remember, he's got those, 4 or 5 kids? One on the way?
At least he's responsible.
She ain't even cute.
Well, I mean, again, had you and I been in the same vicinity that he was, I would have concocted a plan to help you. But we weren't there, so this is how it is.
Eric, I think we need to have a talk one day off show. Anyway.
Yes, we can't go on without introducing a former co-host of mine on what used to be Football to Football, and now he is here to talk about the World Cup and Day 2 as well. One of the head men over there at Last Word on Soccer, Matt Pollard.
Ginger Ninja at your service, comrades. I'm gonna agree with Eric's sentiment that the first 2 games that we saw earlier were relatively boring in this one, but I mean, you wanted soap opera on a soccer pitch with the ultimate villain taking on the cast of characters who he's either friends with or enemies with. In club football, I don't think you could have gotten a better game in terms of what we saw with Portugal taking on Spain, and I'm excited to be here to talk about it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, you talk about heroes and villains, but also just devastation on and celebration on the sides of both Uruguay, Iran, and then Morocco and Egypt for various reasons. And I guess we'll go ahead and start here with the Uruguay and Egypt game. Of course, the headline coming in was the idea that, okay, Mohamed Salah is supposedly almost near fit. When are we going to see him? Oh, well, he's not starting. So maybe he comes in a second half sub. Things go what Egypt wanted. It's 0-0. Okay, halftime comes. Maybe Mohamed Salah. No. 60th minute comes. No, it's still 0-0. And at this point, you're thinking, oh, Hector Cooper he's gambling on the fact that he can just keep it this way, and he just doesn't play the whole game. And that's exactly what happens. The problem is that in the 89th minute, Jose Jimenez, the sub, comes on a free kick that's almost like a corner, and the header goes in, and the look on Mohamed Salah's face tells you everything. Like, he can't believe it. He's probably sitting there thinking, God, I should have just gone in. I should have made the coach put me in. I don't know exactly what he's thinking, but God, that's got to be crushing to think, oh, we made it out, we got the point, and on to play Russia. Matt, that's just that's got to suck if you're Egypt.
I agree, Sean. I'd say that so far, this is definitely the tactical, or I'd say the coaching gaffe of the tournament so far, albeit only 4 games in. But, everything that we heard leading up to it, even if we weren't sure whether or not Mohamed Salah was going to start, is that he was going to be available selection and that he was going to be able to play. So you figure, okay, even if he's not starting, unless the game is 3-0 one way or the other in the 80th minute, in which case then it's no point in putting him on there because the result's already lost or won at that point, then you figure that they're going to put him on. This game, as we were talking about earlier, was one of the more boring ones. I felt that, Suarez and Cavani had a lot of the ball, but didn't really create any chances. Omar Garmer and the D-mids, I thought, really kept Uruguay on lock from that standpoint, other than a couple set pieces, including the Jimenez goal right before stoppage time started. But you figured the game was holding on in the balance. If you're saying, I remember I was listening to the Planet Football podcast, and Grant Wall was earlier today, and Grant Wall was arguing that playing Mohamed Salah was going to be a risk in this game. I'm like, it's the opening game of the World Cup, and it's your biggest opponent in the group stage. There is no tomorrow potentially if you lose this one, if you don't get a result in the next game, so to speak. It's not like you're saving him for the rest of the Liverpool season. It's not like this is a last league game before a Champions League final. This is the World Cup. You need to go balls to the wall. Egypt chose not to. They didn't really create anything offensively. Maybe Mohamed Salah goes in there and creates something, or at the very least helps them create a little bit more attack that takes some of the pressure off of the Egypt defense that then prevents the set piece. But massive gaffe in that standpoint. Uruguay takes advantage. But, the big deal here is this probably should have been a draw, which I think would have been an acceptable result for Egypt, independent of Mohamed Salah not being able to start. But now, they're up against the wall at this point in their next game.
Eric, I would say that Matt's totally right, but I feel like that's been the case the whole way through. That idea was Mohamed Salah would maybe miss the first game. That was before you got the announcement previously, and it was, we had talked about maybe not so much give up the game, but this is also your toughest opponent, in that if you're Egypt with a healthy Mohamed Salah, you should feel like, well, we should be able to beat Russia and Saudi Arabia, right?
Absolutely, or at least get 4 points from those matches. And going into this tournament, that was still a very solid strategy. However, say Russia only wins 1-0, Russia wins 2-0, or it follows my prediction of it being 2-1 in Russia's favor. All of a sudden, this is a non-issue. Your goal difference is minimal. There's not a lot of separation in the group. You still have 2 matches, and everything for the most part is up for grabs. What does the host nation do? Win 5-0. Automatically, that turns the group upside down. If I'm the Egypt coach, I'm thinking to myself, all right, things are a little different. Maybe I do need to consider giving Mo Salah 20, 30 minutes late in the game. As Matt said, 70th, 80th minute, especially as it was still 0-0. I would think, okay, let him shake off a little bit, get him that time, off he goes, and maybe we can nick a winner. We go with the 3 points. Didn't happen. Yes, you still get your, what would have been the utopian result, just a 1-0 loss. But now you're more behind the 8 ball than you originally thought. So it goes from an okay to a bit of a whoops.
I mean, you have a point there, but if you're getting the 6 points of the last 2 games, and let's say, Uruguay does their thing and they get the full 9, doesn't really matter at that point. Whether Russia scored 5 goals or not.
Well, again, that's a big if you get those 6. As I was saying, what if it only turns out to be 4? which
Sure.
you never know what can happen with.
But
these
they
two
play
matches.
Saudi Arabia at the end, right? So
Yeah,
you
but
hold
Sean,
your
then
destiny in
you're
your own hands.
Yeah, but then you're getting almost kind of like it's Egypt is almost kind of in the similar situation that Portugal was in 2014, where they had to open up against Germany. I believe it was Pepe who got the red card in that opening game as well, and they ended up losing 3-0. So then you had Portugal that was probably going to beat Ghana, who had already been eliminated on the third match day of the group stage, and the United States that was playing Germany that had already qualified, and other than the U.S. beating Germany, they were going to win the group, so to speak. So, say you end up tying Russia, then at that point you're hoping that A, you can get a convincing win against Saudi Arabia, and B, you're hoping that Uruguay, who probably already beats up Saudi Arabia and comfortably has 6 points, is going to run the score up against Russia as well. I think, if this was 1-0 to Uruguay and then say 1-0 yesterday to Russia over Saudi Arabia, not a big deal at all. But just the big deal about here now is essentially your next game against the hosts are de facto must win as far as I'm concerned, because I just don't see how given where Uruguay's probably going to be on the third decision day, and if you end up getting a draw against Russia, that you're going to be able to make up that goal differential on that day, no matter how bad Saudi Arabia is playing.
Yeah,
that's been one of the biggest questions of the tournament too, is if Russia can put up 5 against Saudi Arabia, what's going to happen when the other teams play them too?
I think that's Rachel having wishful thinking and thinking that everybody plays as bad as Saudi Arabia does. We got to remember Egypt actually knows how to play defense, but that's that's what they did to Cavani and Suarez. Aside from set pieces and the one that Suarez should have just toe poked in instead of trying to get cute and round the keeper, there was El Shaarawy or Sharani, that freaking save he makes on the Cavani volley was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Give him credit for that. That was some crazy stuff right there. But no, for the most part, I think they were missing the Salah piece, so you could see it. They had no creative thought at all. They were trying to just keep from being scored on. They did a good job of that, and they had few opportunities, but Uruguay also very defensively astute, and that's not going to cause them much of issues. I think you got the best of what you could. He gambled. I don't think it's the worst gamble in the world, but I do think that you can't play to, if you're scared that, Dale Godin or somebody else is going to pull Salah's arm, then don't play Salah the whole World Cup, because that could happen with anybody. You got to just put him out there and go, all right, you get injured, it is what it is, man.
And especially if you look at those opening minutes of the game, I'm not saying it's dirty, I'm not saying it's intentional, but Cavani went down pretty quickly. Yeah, he sprang back up, but Egypt was sending some messages of their very own. So if you're thinking, you're already in that mindset, you know damn well that they're going to, at the very least, think about Salah, have that in the back of his mind, and say, hey, if anything happens, anything happens.
Right.
At least we've got Suarez for when somebody bites somebody later this week.
God, let's hope we don't.
Hey, Evander Holyfield said in the commercial himself, there's something about that guy he just don't like.
Oh my God. Somebody brings up the damn Fox Soccer commercial.
They have been on point these past couple of days. I approve. Especially that Icelandic woman. But I digress.
Is that the Russian translator lady?
No, this was in the Volkswagen commercial.
Oh, okay.
I love that commercial.
Okay, moving on. Let's, I don't know how much there is to talk about in the Iran-Morocco game here. I think, as we mentioned in the preview, Morocco's a team that I think some people were taking rather lightly, and there was a lot of talk about, oh, well, Iran has some attackers. One of them, which went down with look like cramp, but you're getting taken off on a stretcher. So if Jacobans, I'm not gonna try to say his name again, is hurt severely, that's a problem because he's your creative force in whatever it is you try to go going forward, which they actually looked good towards the end of the first half. I don't know what happened after that. They went back into that shell, but go ahead.
I can sum up that Morocco-Iran match in just a little bit. Oops. And what the hell were those medics thinking?
To be fair, that cross was really good.
No, it was a great cross, but it was still an oops. Plain and simple.
For sure. Just, I feel bad for that guy. It's like, Iran celebrating like they just won the World Cup, and he didn't even score the goal.
Well, hey, if you're Iran and they hadn't been in the World Cup since how long? If I'm out there on the pitch, I'm taking it.
Well, that's their first win since '98 when they beat the U.S., so.
Alrighty then.
Sigh.
I'm doing the
well, that '98 World Cup was awful.
Everything.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, you know, I don't know what to make of either team here, other than maybe there's a chance Morocco springs an upset, but.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I like some of the stuff that I saw from El Kabay up top before he ultimately ended up getting subbing out. You know, I thought that Morocco was the better of the teams. I thought they had a couple more chances, but, you know, again, I thought this was, you know, similar to the Uruguay game. I felt like if, you know, the ultimate team that ended up losing just made a couple more adjustments, maybe they wouldn't have put themselves in a position to get caught on a set piece, you know, whether it was, you know, Uruguay with a thumping header by Jimenez or, you know, the own goal that, you know, ultimately down Morocco in this one. But, you know, I thought this was, you know, I don't know how much more that we can say about this game. I guess just one thought that I had in any of this, guys, I guess I want to pull the room on here. Is there any thought that maybe Morocco not getting the World Cup bid on Wednesday in any way affected the overall psyche of the team in preparation for their World Cup opener?
Well, I had originally said that Morocco is going to play in two ways. They're either going to, should they have gotten the bid, they would have played with hey, this is what you have given us the World Cup for mentality. And option B, should they not have won the bid, which is ultimately what happened, the mentality was going to be, oh, you don't want to give us a bid? Well, here's what you're going to miss out on. And they did not play like that. So nobody's looking at Morocco and thinking, we missed out on so much. We missed out on this great host nation team that should have been. No, like they just, and I don't think they're going to have that mentality against Spain and against Portugal.
Well, I'm really glad we don't have to see more own goals in 2026 then.
I mean, to be fair, there's 48 teams in that World Cup. They could qualify on their own. So,
and I mean, really, I don't think it was an issue of, that World Cup bid mentality, because in those early minutes, everybody was harping on, it's going to be a midfield battle. Those first 10, 15 minutes, Morocco was dominating in the midfield, leaving it to Iran to absorb the pressure, and then when Iran got possession, they were too deep, played too sloppy. I really think to define this game leading up to the own goal, whenever you saw on either team an opportunity, especially in the box, out of nowhere it turned to 1v2, 1v3. You're not going to finish 9/10 of the time in those situations. So Iran just sat, waited. They finally had a better counterattack towards halftime, and in the second half, pounced on those chances, and then the inevitable finally gave. So for Morocco, it was just like, yeah, we're here. Bid thing didn't really matter. Let's do something anyways, like Rachel said, and they just couldn't.
Yeah, I don't know, from what we saw here and what we saw in this next game that we're going to get to, I just don't see it for Morocco and Iran to get anything else. I get it that Spain's going to play more open than probably Morocco and Iran are, and they're probably going to frustrate. But I'm trusting Ronaldo, or I'm trusting Diego Costa or whoever else from Spain to go out there and get you one. And as we saw in the other two, that's all you need is that one.
Yeah, they've got Isco coming up, and lest we forget now, Ronaldo's on the verge of a record. As if he didn't give Messi the finger before, now he really can.
Yeah, he becomes, the fourth player of his age to get a hat trick?
Oldest player to score a hat trick, fourth player to score in 4 different World Cups, and of all the European-based players, he is the all-time goal scorer. All-time leading goal scorer, or joint all-time leading goal scorer.
Won't take long, probably, for him to break that at all.
That's why I say Morocco is like, hey, whoops.
He needs about 100 more to catch up to Abby Wambach, so I'm going to be over here sipping my tea.
Well, let's get to that big marquee game. It's, sometimes these games with Spain and Portugal haven't always been pretty. They're like really drab affairs. Maybe you get a 1-1 or something like that. This started off hot with the Ronaldo penalty of was it not? You had more controversy with, did Diego Costa elbow Pepe, or did Pepe embellish that a little bit too much? Or, should VAR have gotten involved in either one of those, which they chose not to.
Well,
and then you just had some great stuff after
technically, that. VAR did. It just didn't go to a ref's review. Because they said, they check all these goals and penalty decisions, but it's like, at the end, VAR was like, yeah, we're good. We've seen it. Your deal, play on.
Well, the referee had his fingers up there, right? And
yes.
Then I guess he chose not to do anything about it.
Mm-hmm. I'm with Eric on this one, Sean. Did Ronaldo make a meal out of it? Yes. Did he technically get clipped, and was that part of him going down? Yes. And then if you actually look on the play where Costa kind of gets a little bit of an elbow with some incidental contact up to Pepe's face, he actually brushes the chin, but then Pepe grabs for his forward. Maybe that's also a little bit of Pepe's reputation going in there, since he's pretty bad about fingering that sort of stuff. But given that we had good clips of the head official putting his ear to his microphone, and that VAR was taking a second look at it, I'm fine with both of the calls overall. I'm fine with the head ref not needing to go to the monitor in order to determine those decisions, in order to make those decisions.
At least Ronaldo didn't flop like that Iranian dude in the match who literally rolled over like 4 times at the end of the game.
Oh, you wait. That'll happen.
Oh, of course it will happen. I mean, it's Ronaldo. I mean, him and his beautiful self can score all these goals, but he still loves hitting that turf, grass, whatever it is. The match lived up to literally everything that everyone wanted. You've already got people saying it's the best game of the tournament. It's the best World Cup match in history. It had literally everything you could have asked for. I was on the edge of my seat the entire game.
Including Ronaldo getting up and protesting to the ref for a yellow card. So he did have one of his signature moments.
God. That was... I felt like...
would have been like, hey, you want a card? I'll give you one. Shut up!
Yeah. Exactly. How about Matt? I mean... I just like the fact that Portugal scores, Spain's answering, And all meanwhile, Ronaldo's just getting to smile about getting one on his buddies over there at Real Madrid.
Yeah, absolutely, and a couple of his Barcelona nemesis as well. So, I agree with Rachel that, I thought that this game had everything that you could want out of it. I think the one main narrative we have to go over this, obviously Ronaldo is trying to stake his claim, similar to what he's been doing the last 3 years with Real Madrid in Champions League, after they ended up winning La Decima, similar to how he approached the Euros in 2016 when a lot of criticism for his club success, but not carrying that over to the international was affecting him. And now they are defending European champions. I think certainly that narrative and how he goes about approaching that is going to be really, really interesting. However, I still think that Portugal is more on the Argentina side than they are being at the table with the Spains, the Germanys, the Brazils as well, where I don't know how much other help Ronaldo has. And, Pepe and Font are getting a little bit older. I do think that Portugal's midfield is better and more talented than it was in 2016, but I just don't know, eventually you're going to get to a quarterfinal, a semifinal where it's going to be impossible for you where you're not going to be able to avoid one of these giants, where you've got a case where, yes, Ronaldo's the best player on the field, but then the next 7 best players on the pitch are all on the German side, so to speak. So Ronaldo's individual talent is certainly in question. His ability to rise to the moment and do crazy things, whether it was drawing that penalty and converting it, whether it's what he did on one of the best set pieces I've ever seen in a World Cup opening game, that's undoubted. But ultimately, what does his midfield do? How does Patricio handle a PK shootout, for example? What is his defense doing? That, I think, is going to have a bigger factor in terms of, can Portugal make a semis? Can Portugal make a final, or even potentially win a final? On the other side, everybody was talking about what was going on with Spain and their mentality after the coach got fired and what they were going to look like. And the big question we had even before all that started was, is Spain going to be able to create goals? We know they're going to be able to defend. We know they're going to be able to possess and create chances, but are they going to be able to finish? Diego Costa has a brace, Nacho with an absolute blazer as well that, I think right now is goal of the tournament, albeit only 2 games in. Spain is scoring goals, and I think against any other weaker opponent, I think they're going to be okay. A little bit worried about David De Gea with I'll call it a half howler. Ronaldo got a pretty decent shot off that I think De Gea wasn't expecting on the second goal for Portugal, but I think Spain is going to be okay in terms of everybody saying they fired their coach, then all the drama is going to wake up, as it similar does with the downfall of Spain, because they're basically a bunch of club opponents that have to come together and merge together as a national team. I don't think that's going to happen. Spain's definitely getting out of the group. I think they'll probably win that first game. I haven't looked at the table to see who their possible opponents are recently since we started recording. Still have my doubts just because of some of the other internal issues they've had in the last 48 hours as to whether or not they could be able to beat a Germany, a Brazil, who else am I thinking? Of France, in a quarterfinal and a semifinal. So I think both of these teams are still going to be a force in the corners. I don't know if any of them are going to be able to slay a giant to make the final.
Yeah, I think that's one David De Gea would like to have back. You're supposed to be one of the best goalkeepers in the world. You got to stop something like that. It's for me. But sometimes you get a little bit of luck when these hat tricks happen. Not every hat trick is just like you scoring 3 awesome goals. So that happens sometimes. I think for Spain though, we got to remember how many times Spain could have scored. It's not like they were bereft of chances in this game. They had Iniesta had one that went off his boots that normally he would have had and probably been able to make a better pass. Silva had one that barely went wide after they had a really nice 5 or 6 pass combination. Patricio had to make a couple of big saves as well. I mean, the Nacho one nobody was saving, but
no. And for Nacho particularly, that one was somewhat one of redemption because he had a bit of a gaffe and everything. Even before the PK, his gaffe, Nacho had a big one as well. But once Spain woke up, it took them about 20 minutes or so to wake up. Everybody was talking about Isco leading into the tournament. He started showing flashes. As both teams were making one-on-one moves and dribbles in the box. Diego Costa's goal, 1-on-2 eventually. And you talk about tiki-taka, not just leading up to the Nacho goal to make it 3-2 to Spain, they had a stretch where for a full minute they had 30 passes, classic Nuevo Falso type possession leading up to a chance. So I really think Spain could be a formidable force because you have everybody contributing in their own way. I still have them going out where I do, but hey, this is a team to where coach or no matter where they play domestically, they set all of that aside, put it together for the national colors and say, let's go.
Yeah, I still want to see what Spain does against Morocco and Iran, just because there's extra motivation here with everybody's talking about how much of a dumb decision the Spanish FA just did with firing Lopetegui right before the game, and Sergio Ramos was trying to hold some kind of deal so that to try to keep him on and everything else, and people were questioning, oh God, does this mean Spain's gonna start playing badly? And they go out there and they do what Spain does, and people that are in soccer circles like us, we knew that they weren't going to change much because Fernando Hierro is not stupid. He's been there. He knows what Spain's going to do. We're not changing the system here. But when you play, these teams are going to be ultra defensive or whatever. Can they unlock them with ease and not just get super frustrated and maybe they play down to their level? That's what I want to see when they play against these two other teams. And if we're knocking in goals and it's 3-0 or whatever, and they do the business and get through, then I think maybe I'm not questioning Spain at all. But I think that's for me the bigger issue is what happens when you're not on the big stage in the marquee matchup against somebody you really want to show something on.
Yeah, I think if Spain plays their game that got them to the title in 2010, I hope not exactly in that way, but going up against these defensive teams, have defense of your own and saying, okay, if we're not going to score on you, we're going to bide our time and pick our moment because we know for damn sure you're not going to score on us, then it's going to be hopefully less ugly, but it could turn into some 1-0, 2-0 wins, and all is, in their sense, right with the world.
So what is, looking ahead to tomorrow, which is the first day where we have 4 games, and, if you're one of those that needs to watch them all live, get ready to get up at, for Matt, maybe he just shouldn't sleep, because it'd be like 4 a.m. for him, but, for us folks on the eastern side, you're getting up at 5 or 6 a.m. to watch France, Australia, and then the hits keep coming. It's a really good lineup of games with the Argentina, Iceland, Peru, Denmark, Croatia, Nigeria. I mean, is there any specific game that you guys are really looking forward to?
Iceland! Viking clap! Yeah! Yes, Eric.
So that was me, guys.
See, she gets it. Why didn't you get it? I'm going to go with that same match, but I'm also going on the other side of the coin. As much as I would love to help the beautiful country of Iceland do the wave, you really don't think Messi was looking at the Iberian Derby and thinking, crap, now what? Everybody's going to be, this is the order now. Ronaldo went first. He set the bar. Now it's up to Messi. And you've also got Neymar waiting in the wings. Enough said.
Matt, is there?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I'll be going to sleep shortly after we end recording, and then I'm thinking power nap in the early afternoon after the games all end, and then I'm going to be going hiking on Sunday, so then I'll probably be doing some chores as well. So that's how I'll be getting it. So maybe 5 hours of sleep. By the time we end up finishing this, if I'm up in time for the kickoff of Australia taking on France. But, I agree with the two notions. I think Argentina-Iceland is the big matchup in this one. I think according to some of the reports, I believe from Fox Sports with some of the supporters some of the supporters group leaders that they've been speaking with about Iceland, about 1/10 of Iceland's island population, all Iceland citizens, will be in the stadium. I think it's is it Spartak Stadium in Moscow? Will there be, Rachel? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Okay, so I think that atmosphere is going to be tremendous, but I agree with Eric in the sense that Ronaldo just gave a raise, and now Messi's deciding whether or not he's got a check bet or up the ante, so to speak. So I think Messi's certainly going to show up, similar to Portugal. I have my doubts about the rest of the Argentine supporting cast. Di Maria is inevitably going to get hurt at some point in this tournament, assuming he isn't already. So I think Messi's going to show up. Is his magic enough to overtake sort of the scrappy punch above their weight approach that Iceland is going to have again? And the other one that I'm really interested in is Croatia against Nigeria. Not the sexiest matchup on either side for the tournament that you have, but you've got a slightly older Croatian team that I think maybe peaked a little bit in 2016. Luka Modric, I still think, is going to ball out and boss the midfield. Nigeria, the youngest team in this tournament and one of the fastest. I don't know how much they're going to be able to finish, but inevitably Croatia is either going to be caught out of position or lose the ball and be slow, and that's just no matter what ends up happening or how anybody ends up winning, a European team that likes to possess the ball, that is more skilled against an African team that is faster, always makes for interesting soccer in one way or the other, even if it's not well executed. So those are the two that I'm really looking forward to, and we'll see whether or not France will crash and burn or totally outperform the Socceroos in the opening game of the day.
Well, I'm looking forward to the one game you guys haven't talked about. Peru, first World Cup in 36 years. As a person that is from Venezuela, another small country that's never made the World Cup, hoping that one day I get to have that moment of them being there, and maybe with the 48 teams that happens in my lifetime. But I know for that country, for those people, some folks that have been alive that entire time that are once again getting to see that, I think that's going to be a great moment to see Paulo Guerrero get to go out there, and maybe they're a little bit of an underdog in a team that going against Christian Eriksen in Denmark, that everybody's going, oh, Denmark's too good, they should be beating them, they'll be right there with France. I really hope Peru can go and spring the upset and make everybody have to think twice about where this group is going to be standing-wise.
Well, I just have to say two things. Number one, 2026 isn't that far away. You never know. And number two, if I'm the Peruvians, just hope it rains. Netflix fans, you get it.
So yeah, I mean, anything else, Matt? Since you're on, anything in particular you want to talk about before we head out of here?
I want Eric to explain that reference because I don't get it at all.
If you watch the Netflix series The Rain, you'll understand.
Okay, I will add it. I will cue that up then.
Fantastic.
Well,
August, if you're listening, I am available.
Matt, do you want to give yourself a little plug here?
Sure. Follow me on Twitter at LWS Matt Pollard. I will be last word on sports. Chunked everything up into 4 writer teams that we're covering different groups. So Rachel and some of my other colleagues did a very good job covering groups A and B over the course of the last couple of days. I am on writer team 2, so we will be covering group C as in Croatia and D as in Denmark. So obviously tomorrow is my big day for writing. We'll be talking about Argentina, Iceland, maybe a little bit Croatia, Nigeria, so really, really excited for that. Other than that, I guess the one thing that I'll end on a very obvious prediction here, Sean. I predict that the United States men's national team will lose no games in this 2018 World Cup in Russia, nor will they concede a goal. And I think their odds of winning the tournament are just as good as Italy and the Netherlands. And historically, that means they must be a pretty good team. But
Matt, I love and hate you at the same time.
You're welcome, and I'm sorry.
Oh, the pain is even more at this point, but. No, as the days go by and we have more games like Portugal and Spain, I'm not going to be thinking about it too much. But yeah, everybody get ready. 4 games to watch on Saturday. You will get your day full of soccer. And if you can't watch them during the day and if you got to work or something, you can have your whole night full of soccer. Whatever it is, enjoy those games. We'll be back at some point tomorrow talking about those games. Hopefully most of them are good and worth watching. And until then, we'll see you later, everybody.
Get your breakfast, lunch, and/or booze, and for the pride of J.S. Serenade and N'Golo Kante, peace!
Get your Viking claps ready.